Welcome to the Kingdom Culture Podcast that was created on purpose with a purpose to empower, uplift, and guide others to the center of God's perfect will. Kingdom Culture family, welcome back to the Kingdom Culture Podcast. This week, I wanted to talk about overstimulation because I feel like for the past few weeks, I felt like I was overstimulated and I'm not as restful. There's just a lot going on right now in my life, and so I felt like I was overstressed and overstimulated like every day. And so I wanted to see what it actually means to be overstimulated and what we can do to feel better, right? So overstimulation is a state where an individual experiences an excess of sensory input or mental stimulation. This can overwhelm our capacity to process and respond effectively, right? There is two kinds of overstimulation. There's external and internal. So external refers to overwhelming amount of sensory input from our environment. So like fast-paced environment, excessive noise, bright lights, constant notifications, information overload can lead to stress, reduced focus, and even physical symptoms like headaches. Internal overstimulation pertains to the thoughts, emotions, and mental clutter that we might have. So for me, an example of external stimulation would be me being out in public. I used to be very sensitive to being around a lot of people just because of the way that I walk, and I don't like going through crowds. It's just something that I don't like. So that right there overstimulates me. It stresses me out. It gives me anxiety. And I'm still working through that, right? But that's the one thing I always think about. I'm like, there's a lot of people here. I feel overstimulated. I'm stressed out. I want to leave as soon as we can. Internal would be like overthinking or leaving tabs open of tasks you haven't done. At least for me, I have to finish what I start or I just feel overwhelmed and I feel like I have to do so many different things. I don't like multitasking because that also creates overstimulation, because you feel like you're doing 5% of this, 2% of this, 10% of this, and you're storing it all up here. So that's why multitasking for me doesn't work. And to be honest, there's been studies where it shows how multitasking really doesn't help you get stuff done, right? I also did some other researches of like what other stresses we might have that might overstimulate us, right? And these were really cool because one of them is actually technology-induced stress. So there was a research about the impact of digital devices, so like excessive use of them, because of all the notifications and like how you have, our scrolling addictions. I know that I had those before too. So before bed, I would just be on my phone and scroll, and then I would waste a lot of time and I didn't go to bed when I was supposed to. And so the next day I woke up in a reactive mode instead of a proactive mode. And it was just a lot, right? So our phones actually contribute to cognitive overload, which, reduces our performance and increases our feelings of anxiety because you're never disconnected. You always feel like you have to be connected to something. And with social media, right, we feel like everything's in the palm of our hands. We're never disconnected. I had to put my phone away when I'm trying to do a big task because I cannot focus. So when I am, time blocking for the podcast, or I'm time blocking for work, for a sales call or something, I literally put my phone out of sight, because that way I'm able to focus and not have to worry about, who texted me, or who's trying to call me. Do not disturb has actually become my best friend this past month, because learning about this and learning about how I wanted to cope through my overstimulations and stress has really helped, right? Another overstimulation environment is at our workplaces. So a friend of mine from work said, hey, you know what? I feel so mentally exhausted. I feel so fatigued. I feel like I never get anything done. And I feel like, I'm always on to the next thing without finishing the last. So investigations have been conducted on the effects of a fast-paced and overstimulating work environment. Researchers explore how factors like open offices, multitasking demands, and constant connectivity affect employees' well-being, productivity, and job satisfaction. So our office actually has open office spaces, and so anybody can come up and talk to you. Anybody can come up and say, hey, I need you to do this. And so she's constantly having to deal with that and juggle with people coming in and out and bothering her at her desk when she's focused on one thing. And from what she's told me, she's like, yeah, I always finish one thing, but then I have to go back. So like I said earlier, the 5%, 2%, you keeping your mental tabs open will cause you to be overstimulated because you're constantly like, oops, I didn't finish that, or I gotta go back to that, or you know what, this person came to talk to me, I couldn't get done what you asked me to, so now they have to go back and forth, right? So that's another one. Media overload is another cool one, and I talked about it earlier too, about social media and how that is, a big factor of us feeling like we're not fulfilled, a big factor of us feeling like, we're not doing our best. Because if you ask me, if you don't use social media just as a way to help you with certain things, like I know I use my social media mostly now for my podcast and for spreading the word of God and making sure that people know that I am working towards being a better person and through my healing journey and stuff like that, or my workouts, but that mindset shift didn't happen until I went through and realized like social media is a tool. Social media is not for me to stay on it for 35 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. It's for me to be, one, if I have friends that are creators, I'm able to support them in this way. If somebody has a business, I'm able to support them by following their pages. For me, it's more business driven, but I know that a lot of people waste so much time scrolling. And I know this because I used to be that person too. Right before bed, I would lay on the bed and I'd say I'd go to sleep at 9 p.m. and I end up not going to sleep at 9 p.m. Instead, I went to sleep at 11 p.m. because I was watching TikToks, or I was going through my Instagram and scouting people and like comparing myself. And so this is true, because if you are constantly just watching media and having an overload of things, or like watching the news about how the world is going on, like how the world is what the world is going through, or whatever else, right? That can cause a lot of stress because it brings you into anxiety and into panic mode, because you think that you don't have enough time, or you start comparing yourself to people that have been doing a certain thing for an amount of years when you just got started. And so this happened to me a lot. I used to compare myself to a lot of people because I'm like, wow, I've been in the same industry for 10 years and look at where this person has gone. But what I came to realize is that social media, they'll only show you what they want, right? They'll only show you the good parts. They'll only show you the end results. You won't see the struggles. You won't see how hard it is to actually build a business or have your own thing going on, right? And I'm starting to see that people are starting to get away from social media, which is great. We're starting to realize that, like, hey, you know what, maybe I don't need to be scrolling for 2 hours straight. Maybe I can do something else with that time. Or maybe, you know what, I don't have to be connected all the time. Another thing for me is I don't like feeling like I need to have something going on all the time. So like entertainment, Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, I don't know, all of the, TV things. You no longer have cable, right? So it's rare that I hear somebody say that they still have cable in their house, because we have all these streaming platforms, and people literally will use that to just disconnect and try to like feel better. But in reality, if you sit there and you binge watch something for 5-10 hours, you will feel more exhausted because you're still consuming something. And you are what you watch. You are what you read, and you are who you hang out with, right? And these things are things that I started to pay more attention to, because I was like, why am I feeling so stressed out? Why am I feeling like I'm never getting anything done? Why am I feeling like I'm behind in my life? And the reality was It's because I was sick. I didn't feel like doing anything else. I didn't feel like sitting down and doing my normal routines. I was worried about my son. So that's an external thing, right? My son being sick. Internally, I was feeling like I was running out of time and all these things. And that's when I started digging into overstimulation. So now I have limited myself to at least an hour of Netflix if I need it. If not, I'm going to read a book and then go to sleep, or draw or paint or color. So like coloring books, those stress reducing coloring books with the cool flowers and stuff. I'm going to get one of those. But there's just so many different things, that can contribute to your stress, your anxiety, feeling overwhelmed, feeling like you're not enough, feeling like you're not doing enough, having a work-life balance. I'm not saying that you need to be working 24/7 because that's not healthy either, but you can do so much more than just scrolling on your phone or watching a series. I know for me, at first it was kind of hard, and I know that my husband loves YouTube, and that's how he likes to decompress, is watching YouTube or watching, his funny man videos. But I asked him if we could have, a week just to try it out where we don't watch TV right before we go to bed, or we don't be on our phones right before we go to bed. What if we, instead, I asked him, what if we talk about our day? What if we, stay with AB for a little bit and read him his kid Bible, or maybe pray together before, and it's only been a few weeks since I've been doing this, but it's been so much better. I can say that even with those little things, I've been able to just feel myself be more proactive instead of reactive, because that's something that happens as well. So I don't know how many of you wake up and the first thing you do is check your social media. I stopped doing that because I learned about being proactive instead of reactive. So my mindset mentor always talks about that. It's like, if you go on your phone, boom, something in your brain happens and you go into a reactive state because you're already checking emails, or you're checking your social media, and you're just scrolling and putting in more media or more stuff into your brain instead of, waiting an hour or two before you look at your phone. So I started doing that, which has been amazing. And achieving a healthy balance between external and internal overstimulation is crucial for overall well-being. You can set realistic expectations, practice mindfulness, engage in activities that promote relaxation, like I was talking about. Try deep breathing exercises, spend time in nature, and just prioritize self-care, create intentional spaces that foster mental peace, and you disconnect from the constant buzz and the world and your internal thoughts, right? And for me, I think that also falls into my prayer closet. I love when I'm in there because it's just me and God, and I'm able to just relax and bring up all my burdens to him. And if I am feeling overwhelmed or overstimulated, I can say, God, it's yours. I'm not feeling like myself. I'm feeling very fast paced. I feel like I'm not doing anything. I don't feel accomplished. So I'm going to surrender it to you. Right? And like always, right, I want to leave you guys with a Bible verse. And even though the Bible doesn't truly say, hey, you can't be overstimulated. There's not a verse that talks about that specifically. But I did find Isaiah 40:31 that says, "But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint." This verse emphasizes the renewal of strength through hope in the Lord. While it doesn't directly address overstimulation, the principle of finding strength and resilience in God's hope during challenging times can be applied to situations when one feels overwhelmed or unable to escape overstimulation. So even God knows how we work, right? God knows our humanness. God knows that we always have something going on in our minds. So he calls us to come to him and just let it out and surrender it and allow Him to be our strength, and allow Him to lead our steps and our next things. And another thing that I want to put you guys on is to dump everything in a notebook. So what I do now after work, I just kind of write down everything that I didn't get done, and then I look at it the next morning and see what's up for what I have to actually do. So minimizing your tasks and prioritizing also helps. But anyway, if you're feeling overstimulated or stressed, I do pray and hope that you find this helpful, and that you can find your ways to deal with it and cope with it, right? Well, that's all I have for you guys this week. I hope it was of some value, and if you did like this podcast, please share it forward. We only grow as fast as you guys share this podcast, so I appreciate all the support and love, and know that I love you, but that the Lord loves you more. Always, always, always. We will see you guys next Wednesday. God bless.